I think what we're going to try and demonstrate today is how we've really embraced mobile, but probably to put that in some context, and this is the kind of slides that make my bosses happy. It just shows some stuff that goes up, left to right, because it makes everyone feel cool. but essentially, the point here is we have a constant debate at our place whether or not we're a kind of 800 store retailer or whether or not we're a digital kind of e-commerce business. Because there's a bit of a contradiction between the two. But this just demonstrates how kind of on the left-hand side our sales over from kind of 99 through to now, and then on the right-hand side our kind of e-commerce sales from 2004 to now. And the important thing that's kind of crazy for us when we were talking about it the other day is that if you look at our 2012 digital sales, they're 5 times the size of our entire business was back in '99, and that's quite a compelling thing for us, because it means that we really are a digital business rather than a retail business to a certain extent, or a bricks and mortar retailer. And the reason that's become really important is it kind of really drives some of the activity we do, some of the marketing activity we do, and some of the ways in which we kind of behave. And I think that we talk about it being, a service innovator rather than kind of, a bricks and mortar retailer. And the two of the things that we're probably that are most live and most relevant for us in that space are trying to do things that are pure digital, pure plays in the digital space rather than things that kind of manifest themselves in the retail space. For example, we launched a movie streaming service at the back end of last year, so obviously that wasn't something that you go and buy and install, you had to do it digitally. And second, and hopefully from next week, everyone here will start seeing loads of posters all over the place demonstrating how you can order a pizza any place, anywhere, anyhow, through mobile applications. And that's probably the first time we've been very overt in our above-the-line communications, talking about kind of the power of mobile for our business. Going the wrong way. And the reason we're doing that thing, and the reason we're going after the mobile side of things, is essentially, whilst we moved from being a bricks and mortar business to a digital business, we're now flying towards becoming a mobile business exceptionally quickly. This chart just demonstrates from kind of the beginning of 2012 to where we are now. The mobile is already 22%, actually it's more than 22% now. In 2012 it was 22% of our business, up 125% already this year on last year. And it's just just flying at such a pace that we're kind of struggling to keep up with it. And mobile is just huge in terms of our demand, and a lot of the initiatives we're taking now are just about how do we make mobile kind of sing even better for us. But yeah, that's growth for us in mobile has been huge, and that's predominantly been driven by being sort of taking advantage of our of our status as kind of the largest in the category, but also kind of doing things quicker than our competition. So we launched our a mobile site and a mobile app, I don't know, 2 or 3 years before any of our competition. We just took a bit of a punt. We knew that customers were there, we knew that people were using mobile, but we didn't know how well it would work for us. And I think that if anyone's ever used our mobile sites in probably the previous 2 years, they were pretty clunky and pretty horrible. But the point being is we were there and the customers were there, so we took great advantage of the fact that you can drive sales through mobile. And now we've got a much better suite of mobile applications, but the point is, if you get in early, you can really take advantage of that.
So we've sectioned this presentation into 2 bits, which is mobile now and next. And I think we're very much focused on the now section, but as Nick's been alluding to, what we've been doing to date very much is about making sure that we are really keeping pace where consumers are, making sure we know that people are moving to mobile very rapidly, and it's really about being open for business and about getting the kind of footprint right and the services right so that we can start transacting now, because that's where customers are and they're ready to transact, but also about making sure that we have the right kind of promotional initiatives and support activity in place to really drive mobile as hard as we can as a retail channel. So I mean, those are broadly the 2 areas that we'll be focusing on at the moment. So as Nick said, very much about getting the footprint right, and Domino is very quick to launch into apps and build from there. This is not a process of you've built your site and your apps are now done. It's a constant process of making sure that you're delivering the best user experience you can. The site and apps strategy is as it should be, that apps are offering an enhanced experience over and above what a site might offer, given that users are taking time to download them, making sure that you're on the right platform. So we Domino's launched into iOS first, very quickly saw that Android was growing, and similarly have gone into new areas like Windows 8. And also recognizing that user behavior is very different, and context is very different between mobiles and tablets, and the way that people use them and transact them is very different. So designing custom experiences and apps for tablet. And that's very much, you need to get your footprint right so that you can be open for business and start transacting. But the other areas around is how you then use marketing and promotional tactics to fuel sales growth in those channels, which is what we're going to talk in a bit more detail now. But broadly speaking, there's 4 areas that we're going to talk through. One is, and I guess this is a bigger point than necessarily mobile, but it's how we've framed promotions to customers, because we're fast food, and even our bit of fast food, pizzas is a very, very, very cluttered and competitive category. Being on deal and on promotion is the norm. So it's very important to understand how you frame promotions in a way that is customer centric and really adds value. The other thing has been an investment over time in CRM. Now, CRM program has been important for Domino since we went into e-commerce, but we've really thought about how we use mobile as a layer within that, how we start to build mobile-specific data assets as part of that program. Prospecting and acquisition, which is really about layering in mobile in the best possible way to all the week in, week out things that we do to bring customers into the business and to buy with us every week. And then the last thing is thinking about how we innovate within mobile, trial new things. Not necessarily always with the expectation that they're going to drive tremendous sales growth right now, but also is a very important way to build a kind of service reputation within the sector, so that customers know that we're a company that's innovating to keep up with things. Next, we can talk through a bit more detail of those 4 areas.
Yeah. So, as Mark alluded, we work in a very competitive environment and in a largely commoditised environment as well, certainly in terms of kind of delivered pizza. So one of the things that we, and it's not specifically a mobile message here, but this is more about kind of just when you're packaging up promotion. So one of the things that we've done, well, we've been doing it probably for 3 years certainly, but we're doing it more and more now, and it's kind of researched very well. Any kind of promotional activity we run has to be framed around some sort of insight, and something that essentially demonstrates a much bigger benefit and is easier for the customer to take away. So if we take the 2 examples that we have live at the moment, we have something called the midweek rescue service, which to all intents and purposes is basically a happy hour. It's just cheaper to buy pizzas in that period of time. But the insight around that is about packaging it up so that mum kind of sees it as between 4 till 6 p.m. Mondays to Fridays you can get 50% off pizzas. And therefore, you frame the whole promotion around something that's much more about the service delivery than just the 50% off price promotion. And similarly, a buy one get one free. They've been around in kind of retail since the beginning of time. Whereas we have 2 for Tuesday, which is a buy one get one free. Just happens to be on a Tuesday, so you can put a nice pithy sentence around it, and that's kind of driven our Tuesday sales from kind of being 5% of sales kind of 4 years ago to our 3rd largest day now. So I think these are two good examples of how if you frame a promotion in a way that kind of it's something that a customer can take away, they work for you a lot harder. And similarly, mobile CRM is an area that's become increasingly important, and I gave Mark this stat on Friday and it's already out of date because that's how quickly we're growing in mobile. So for the first time, we're quite a prolific emailer. Anyone here that signs up for our emails, you probably get bombarded with them far too often for your liking, but they work for us, so we do. But no, we're quite prolific in our CRM, but one thing that we probably hadn't really tested heavily was about mobile and how you should start using responsive design. So last week, for the first time, we put a responsive design in our emails, so that kind of irrespective of the platform that someone was receiving that email on, it would kind of respond accordingly and work much better. So up to last week, 22% of all our sales through CRM came through mobile. In last week's promotion, which is this one here, 36% of our sales came from mobile. So just by responding accordingly to kind of how people tailoring your assets according to mobile. Or the device specifically can have great pays off exceptionally. So there's a good example of kind of just doing some really basic stuff, and that works really well. And then again, just additional things to kind of from a CRM perspective is one of the biggest challenges we have in our sector is about kind of retention and converting people to the second purchase, making sure they stay engaged. Because essentially you can buy a pizza pretty much anywhere. So how do we make sure that the experience with us is much better? So we've got 2 things here that are predominantly the same kind of channel, but one of them is much more about, you need to have an app on, one of them is about having a phone number, one of them is about having an app. So we've got 2 million active SMS subscribers that we use, again, to ensure that we're continually retaining those people through SMS. So any of those promotions we talked about previously, we'll always make sure we communicate people with mobile, because I think one of the stats I saw recently was something like people will receive 97% of SMS are opened, and they're opened within 15 seconds or something ridiculous like that. Whereas email, I think we have about a 3-day opening curve on email. So using SMS, although it's quite basic, and again that's something that's been around since the beginning of mobile. It's one of our most effective kind of CRM channels. And it's something that we haven't officially kicked off with yet, but we've got it in our apps and we're starting to play around with testing it, is the use of push notifications. And we think that that'll be the kind of the next phase of SMS from our perspective. Is about, we've got so many, we've probably got 3 or 4 million apps out there on people's handsets, and we need to start using the fact they've got an app on their handset to push those same kind of CRM messages with push, and I think you'll find that they'll become really compelling, both from a promotional perspective, but also a service perspective. Then on to sort of the more traditional, I guess, prospecting and acquisition type stuff. So how do we start to make our brand stand out in the mobile space, and how do we use essentially the same tactics that we would use in any other channel, but make sure they're a bit more tailored to mobile. So here we've got a few examples of, on the left-hand side, is just kind of using things like Twitter, just to make sure that Twitter's predominantly a mobile social platform, and making sure that any promotion we're running, we'll make sure we're tweeting about it, if it's kind of, that's much more convenient for mobile users. But affiliates, affiliates are a huge market for our sector, and discounts kind of drive the business. So kind of making sure that you're with the right kind of affiliate programs is really important. And essentially, we've seen since we started working with people like My Voucher Codes for their mobile platforms, that's driven our sales through mobile significantly. So they're quite basic, but it's making sure that every channel you use, every traditional channel you use, is also tailored to mobile. And then we've got some slightly sort of newer tactics, like making sure when we're using display advertising, we're pushing download the apps rather than actually just trying to sell a pizza. Because one of the things that we found is, we used to have a very hardcore e-commerce mentality, which is everything's got to kind of drive to the sale now, whereas we're starting to find a lot more loyalty from people that are using apps, which Ian was talking about in his presentation. So the more we can actually encourage people to download the app rather than transact immediately, the more benefit we have there. And then there was that point about don't put a QR code on everything, or make sure you're using them the right way. I think that we have a few bad examples of where we use QR codes, which I haven't put up here, and they have been bad. And we've got a few good examples. So where where you can use it to leverage an asset we have. We pump out something like 43 million leaflets a year that go through people's doors, and it's very hard to connect that kind of through someone's door back into the website or back into the store. So we used, when we did a thing with Levi Roots, I think it was last year, about a Rego pizza, which was exceptionally original. We put a load of additional content with him making the pizzas and stuff like that, so people could interact with QR codes. I haven't actually got the numbers in here, but that was a really responsive campaign, and it was because it was a nice subtle use of a QR code, and there was a genuine added benefit for that in our activity. So that's worked really well. And then Foursquare is another one that we like. Again, another example of 30% of our sales come through the people walking in, and I think that's where that juxtaposition between being a bricks and mortar retailer and being an e-commerce retailer is sometimes you forget that there are great social platforms out there that drive people into store. So something that we've had running for 2 or 3 years now is a nice Foursquare promotion that kind of gets people to interact with their mobiles when they're in store. And if you're the mayor if you're the mayor in a certain store, then you get a free pizza on a Wednesday afternoon or something like that. So trying to use that a lot more, and I think that we find that that's something that certainly if you're a business like ours, where you've got 800 local businesses, all run by local businessmen, they can play with this a lot more. It's a great nationally available digital asset that they can tailor locally. So we start seeing that, and that's something that again has quite a lot of interaction. More considering Foursquare is not that big in the UK, we get quite a lot of interaction after that, more than you'd expect. And then, back to Mark's point about making sure that anything we do is about sort of service and innovation. I think that, we did something that at the beginning of last year, which we really liked. There's a kind of common misconception amongst all our customers that you can only eat pizza in the evening and you can only get it delivered to your house. So one of the things that we wanted to go after is trying to get people to have it as lunch and see it as a viable alternative for eating a sandwich, because it is, I assure you. So one of the things we did is an auction, like an auction-based tweet. So it worked really well for us, which was essentially if you hashtagged, let's do lunch and retweeted it, then it would knock the price of the pizza off by a penny. So the more people you got it, the more it would drive down, between a certain window in the morning, get people to interact with it, and then for a couple of hours between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, you could buy that pizza at the price that it come down to. And again, that's just a nice, it's not like it didn't change our sales and now we do this for everything we do. But it's a nice initiative of how people could interact using Twitter, which we know again is a predominantly mobile platform, to kind of drive the price to get them to kind of interact in a time of day when they wouldn't normally interact with us. So again, that's a really successful promotion from our perspective. And then there are other things that we're seeing mobile as a great facilitator for us. So, we never advertise in cinema because, the sort of common thought being if someone's paid out to go to cinema, they're unlikely to buy pizza that night. so don't advertise there. But the other thing being is actually if you've gone out on a Friday night to the cinema, chances are you might be staying in on Saturday night because I don't know, maybe I'm just really boring, but I can't go out more than one night on the weekend. But so one of the things that we started, how can we test that theory? So start working with Cinemy, which I think is Odeon's app, and they've got a nice application where look similar to the Shazam thing. If you kind of download the app when you go into the cinema, then any of the ads on the showreel will be connected to it, and then if you open your app at the time, it'll get the visual or the sonic linking, and then it pushes the promotion into your phone. So that's something we're trialling at the moment, and I think that's a nice way of using mobile to kind of test certainly an area that we've never really gone into before, because we've always had this kind of conception that it was wrong, and hopefully that will be proved incorrect, and actually Cinema will be a channel that we can use because it has the right audience for us. And then there's other activity that we've done, which again is sort of not specifically mobile, but certainly well suited to mobile, is creating assets that are available and relevant to our audience. And again, Ian was talking about this, about video being something that's consumed massively on mobile now. We've just come out of the back of something called the support group, which was like an 11 episode webisodes, I think is the other term that people like to use. Essentially taking, and this was targeting our social snackers audience, which is basically our young people, to make sure that we maintain their interest over a continued period of time, and rather than just shouting pizza at them, let's try and find a sort of common ground of relevance. So we ran this 11-week episodic piece of content, which basically took the results and the kind of talking points of the football from the weekend, spun it around into a piece of content in a couple of days, and then got that back out. And we saw that a large proportion of the viewing came through mobile, so that's what we're talking about here, but also I think it was really important for us from a sales perspective, even though it was a branding piece, it actually drove the frequency of purchasing between those customers up by 15%, and had a great sort of click-through rates and share rates and interaction rates. And again, as I say, a lot of that came through mobile, so it's just really important that the video does work very hard on mobile. So
Nick's talked through the number of things that Domino has done to date to get ready for business, to make sure that the things that we would be doing anyway are happening in mobile. But we just wanted to quickly touch on where we see potentially mobile going next. And I think if the theme of mobile now, and it's certainly by no means done, is about being open for business, I think where mobile is heading is that it's starting to become more of a kind of platform layer that cuts across marketing. It's not just another channel within any marketing strand, but because of the ubiquity of mobile devices, it becomes something that impacts across every stage of the customer journey in a way that probably no other device really does do at the moment. And things that will drive us over time, just looking forward, we'll probably hit a really critical point towards the end of next year, where we reckon that will reach about 80% smartphone adoption in the UK. We're about 60% now. The reason that's important is because at that point it matches, if not just overtakes, fixed line broadband penetration, which is a real kind of watershed, I think. I think the other thing is around 4G, and I think we probably won't appreciate what impact 4G will have until we start to see it properly roll out. Vodafone and O2 launched their offerings in Q4. The expectation is that they'll launch at a price point similar to EE, but that 3 will come in shortly afterwards and try and start to more aggressively price the market. And once we find that 4G packages become consumer friendly and the rollout happens, and if it delivers everything that it's been promised to and should happen through the auction process, hopefully we'll see less of the kind of technical issues that Ian had earlier, and we'll find that mobile rich media and connectivity outside of the home and broadband becomes a reality, and that will make mobile truly rich media devices. The other thing is we've spoken very much about mobile as a sales channel, but of course it has a much greater role to play in how it influences sales, both in store and online as well, and really understanding and unpicking that influence is very important. And then finally measuring how kind of behaviours happen across devices is becoming now possible and important to do. So just so the next frontiers for us, and I'll touch on this quite quickly, is we've mentioned this, but really mobile becoming the start point for customer journeys, and even more so over time. So there's a point of convenience within the category. That could be starting journeys on the go, or initiating journeys on the go, or promotions from anywhere from out of home. But it could even extend to services that that take us beyond in-home environment that traditionally pizzas have been delivered to. The other thing is location. A lot of the initiatives that we've done, it's fair to be saying, largely have been driven nationally, but there's a real opportunity to start getting more granular with location as the technology in this area starts to get more refined. Domino's is a franchisee business, and one of the things I think we see the future being is starting to empower the franchisees to be able to control mobile marketing at a local level based on their individual requirements, whether they're a new store who needs to build sales, whether they're being impacted by competitor launches, or they're underperforming in some ways, that there are tactics within the CRM program, but within media, that would allow them at a very localized level to start to implement promotional strategies that can help drive it, and to give them the tools and the power to do that. Loyalty, mobile as an enabler within loyalty and frequency driving. We think mobile has a big role to play in driving frequency, not just as a device that makes it more convenient to order, but also there's a big space in terms of mobile goods and services and the value of what people might want on their mobile that act as frequency drivers. And we deliberately put a picture of the pizza box up there because actually the box becomes quite an interesting way to start that journey if you've got a mobile device. And then the final thing is kind of getting measurement right. To date, I think we've sort of understood how the various bits of e-commerce are working in isolation, but we're going to start to measure cross-platform journeys in a better way, investigating Google's universal analytics, which I think will be a tremendous help. The other thing is going responsive design in all e-commerce channels, so that you have one view of a site across customers and you understand the genuine role that mobile is playing, not just in driving sales, but in influencing sales. And finally, our most obviously chest-thumping chart to finish off, but I think the mantra at Domino's for a long time has been, act fast, stay with where consumers are, and I think the word that we want to emphasise here is constant. We know that we can't stand still in mobile, that the landscape is going to evolve, that it's going to become a much more influential part of the business and probably one of the most critical devices. And so we have to make sure that we continue to push ourselves. It's a good place for us as an agency to be. We've got clients who want to do that with us, and we look forward to the next few years of mobile brands.